I've only always been motivated by the music. I haven't let money dictate whether or not I haven't let crowd size, I haven't let social media, likes, followers, subscribers. My only motivation has been music, man. It's been music, and it's been to pass it on. It's been to help people the way I was helped.
TrevBeats Show, TrevBeats Show. TrevBeats Show, TrevBeats Show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the TrevBeats Show. Today, I want to introduce somebody that is not only influential, but super relevant, super forward-thinking, and super hybrid. You can't put this guy in a box. He does it all. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the inimitable Mr. Calvin Rodgers.
What's up, man?
What's up, bro?
Yo, man, that is a very strong and very humbling compliment coming from a giant like yourself, bro.
Oh man, thank you,
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on, man. It's really important, man.
Dog.
You know, I know your history, and back in I don't know if you even know this. I think you do, but back in like the early '90s, me and Gordon Campbell were roommates. So like 93. Yeah. So that's, me coming from the jazz side, that's when I was getting hip to the gospel vocabulary and the gospel vibe, and coming from the electric band and all this stuff. And then, that's when I started first hearing about you. But we still, for years and years, we never really met in person until we did PASIC. But man, that performance, bro, I was like, okay, yeah, this is it's different when you see things that are closer to the root. You know what I mean? The root, bro.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
yeah, man.
Thanks for coming on, bro. I really appreciate that.
Bro, it's a complete honor for me to be here, man. You've been like I remember Teddy talking about you, and Teddy was the one that was telling me about all the drummers in LA when he was first transitioning from leaving Chicago and going to LA. And him and my brother Felix Pollard were one of the guys who would just was like, yo, you gotta get hip to Trevor, man. Like, I'm like, no, never. Still to this day.
Yeah.
And even to this day, like when not too long ago I was having a conversation with Felix, and Felix says something. He said, man, the one thing about Trevor is a lot of guys talk a lot of stuff and they say a lot of stuff. He said, but Trevor's the only one that's got the receipts, bro. He's the only one that got the receipts. He said, man, he's totally got like everything he's done. He's got the receipts to back it up. He got the timestamps and everything. And I'm like, man, yo, you ain't lying, bro. Yeah. And
some people just say that's getting old.
Giant, bro.
Some people just call that getting old.
No, you got in this day and age, where we're in this weird pocket where music is in this phase where now musicians are being they're becoming relevant, and they are building their careers without any credentials.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you got one side of musicians who have credentials, and you got another side of musicians that have influence.
Right.
And then there are some that indeed possess both.
Right.
And you are one of the ones that you are definitely one of the ones that possess both, bro.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I mean, I think a lot of my philosophy, and I'm sure it's the same with you, is I coming up, and I don't share this much, but me playing drums and trying to move around how I move around is a form of activism, because I think the generations before us were put in a box. This is what you do. Go do that, and we'll call you for that. I just didn't believe in that. So my thing was, why can't drummers be producers and songwriters? Why can't drummers be
Yeah.
inventors? Why can't drummers play different styles of music at the level, not just surface? So my career
Yeah.
has been, I really have had that in the back of my mind to just try to inspire by example. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, you've done that, bro. You
well, I
have done that.
appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, man.
You have done that, bro. Yeah.
I had cats to look up to like Harvey and Ndugu, and cats that I saw be Renaissance. Even James Gasson, on the Jim Keltner, all these people where it was just the whole gamut, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Those guys. That was the incredible thing about drumming, man. That is the incredible thing about drumming. In the especially in that era, the
yeah,
musicians that you just spoke about in that era, man, they did it all,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
like you're talking about, not being put in the box. You're talking about the drummers, your style of playing and your artistry and your career being an example of activism to make sure to say, man, don't put me in a box.
yep,
Don't reduce my years of study
right,
to one genre or one style. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
I don't work this hard to, I don't spend hours and days and weeks and years in the shed for
yeah,
you to just say, call that guy when you want a hip hop track.
right,
You know.
exactly. Well, yeah, man.
And
Yeah. Go ahead. No, you got it. I
I
hear
was
you.
gonna say, when you spoke about producers, man, think about there's this amazing story about Quincy, you know, and everybody was was when Michael got ready to do Off the Wall, they was like, you gonna get Quincy Jones, he a jazz dude, you know what I'm saying? He's a
Right.
bebop guy.
Right.
And you trying to do basically pop, pop music. This is the
Right.
wrong guy. And then Mike, they were gonna get Maurice White
Sure.
because they were like, but you know, those are the people, man. Those when you talk about inspirations and your career reflects that those guys are your heroes. You know what I'm saying? That
Right.
show your career reflects that, man. That's
Well, I
that's
appreciate
incredible.
it. There's a guy that, and I have to mention, there's a guy that doesn't get enough respect, and I always tell people, go look up Arif Mardin, please. He's just
You just put me on.
he's like he didn't have a record as big as Thriller, so he doesn't get put in that conversation as much as Quincy. But go listen to the Shaka Khan Weekend. What You Gonna Do For Me album? That's Arif.
Oh yeah.
Right? He's the one that gave
Okay.
he's the one in the documentary it came out that he's the reason the Bee Gees had the falsetto when he was producing them. He said, "Oh, they were trying to demonstrate a part," and he said, "No, we should use that. That's a thing." So he's the reason behind that. His the way he assembled projects, man. And then even at the kind of towards the end of his career, he got that Grammy doing that Norah Jones album. You know what I mean? So it's like
Okay.
just look up Arif, man. But so now this is one of the main reasons I'm so excited we could talk because, well, long before we knew each other, we bonded in a way that you probably aren't even aware of, which is Garden Wall. Like, bro, when I heard you sing that, hey, listen, I'm a huge Dave Weckl fan from back in the day. Like, I mean, I know you are too, and we're gonna talk about that intersection that you've kind of created, and maybe people don't even know. But like, man, I remember winning some high school jazz competition, and I got a check. I went to Guitar Center, wrote the check over to Guitar Center, and got me an 8 and a 10 and a splash and a double pedal. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man,
Man.
we would love the electric band. So I noticed, and one of the things, I was talking back in the day when I was first getting hip to you, because you was playing Yamaha back then, right? Am I right? Or were you always playing Pro? You were playing Yamaha, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yes, sir. No,
the
you're yes, sir.
yeah, taking that kind of some of that phrasing that Dave had, you were really one of the
Hmm.
instrumental people of bringing that phrasing into the gospel arena that's still there today. And maybe people don't know
Yeah.
the lineage of that. They might not understand some of the vocabulary, a lot of the vocabulary that's coming now was coming from an approach that Weckl had that you took and interpreted and brought it into that world. Was that something you
Yeah.
were like kind of knowing that you were doing or what?
No, no, no. I mean, I didn't. I'm not gonna say like I set out to be like, yeah, I'm gonna change gospel music and change the
Right.
phrasing. I was
Right.
just, but I was attempting to find. I was trying to find my voice,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew I didn't have a lot of technical prowess. I never, one of the guys to boast to be one of the most technical drummers. I grew up. I learned in
No,
church.
no.
No, no,
Hey,
I'm so.
hey, strike that from the record, Your Honor. That's we're not gonna go there. But go ahead, go ahead. It's
So
all good.
I grew up in church, and I didn't get into learning about what I was playing until I was 14, 15 years old.
Mm,
And by then, I was already playing with artists. I was recording. I had recorded already. So when I got the first Dave Weckl album, the Master Plan album, which I didn't have the album. My cousin gave me a tape with like three of the songs on there from
right.
Dave's first album. The Garden Wall was on that
Yeah.
album. Tower of Inspiration
Yeah.
was on that album, and uh
Was Spur
was
the
it
Moment on there?
that no, no, spur the moment, no, 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 it was like three songs that he gave me, three Dave Weckl songs that he gave me. It was two or three Yellow Jackets. He just made me
Mm-hmm.
like a tape with like
Mm-hmm.
some stuff to listen to, but I think it's called This Place, That Place, or something like that.
Okay. Oh, okay. Got you. Yeah. Right. Right.
So that song, those three Dave Weckl songs were on there, and I only had those three songs from his album for years.
Wow.
Um, and I just used to share to those songs. And there was a song from a Ricky Peterson album called
Mm.
Night Watch with Vinny Colaiuta on there. It was I ended up going and buying these albums later. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But I didn't know who I was listening to anyway. I was shedding to those records, um and then one day rather, I went in Guitar Center, and they had the Dave Weckl, I think it was Back to Basics
Oh yeah.
video cassette.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I studied that cassette, and what happened was he was breaking down some of the stuff in there that he was playing, some of the rudiments that he was playing, and his phrasing. And that was the first time I had really like been able to like grab a concept of you know adding fundamentals basically to my drumming.
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was just playing what I heard and felt, what I heard and felt in my mind and in my head up until that point.
Right.
So by that time, by the time I started, I got that DVD, well, not DVD, that video
Yeah.
cassette.
right.
Uh by the time I got that video cassette, I started kind of I started kind of geeking out on him. And I really got heavy into Dave when he introduced the Dave Weckl band.
Sure.
And that first album, Synergy,
Yeah.
was like around the time where I started doing more and more records. And drumming had changed especially in gospel music, because we had the introduction of Aaron Spears.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Spears was introduced to the world, and that style of drumming, people were becoming more and more aware of Thomas Pridgeon in the gospel world. you
Mm-hmm.
know I
Mm-hmm.
remember Thomas from like being at Gospel Music Workshop of America, but he was
Wow.
introduced to gospel drumming. Guys were really becoming aware of Ronald Bruner, Eric
Mm-hmm.
Moore, all of those guys. And
Mm-hmm.
so that style of playing um becoming more popular, but liked I just like the way Dave kind of made phrasing a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been a fan of jazz drumming.
Mm-hmm.
And what I liked about jazz drumming was that, phrasing was such a thing. And
Right.
there was this, you, of course, you're an amazing jazz drummer, about comping
Right.
and phrasing and melody playing even from drums.
Right.
So that was something that Dave kind of got me open up to,
Mm-hmm.
watching and listening to him kind of got me open up to listening to doing that. I took that, and coupled it with like the strong backbeat of like Ricky Lawson,
Sure.
and I added like the sensitivity parts from what I got from like Will Kennedy and the vibe that I got from Teddy. And that's
Mm-hmm.
really how I tried to and the recording mindset part playing from Terry Baker. I
Ah.
took all of that and tried to make it,
Mm-hmm.
make it, but my for all of the phrasing came from
Yeah.
stuff I was just getting from Dave. I was just,
Right. Right.
I
Right.
was and I was geeking out on that.
Yeah.
That first Dave Weckl band record, bro, Synergy
Yeah.
and Perpetual Motion.
Yeah.
Those two albums, man, just they had me in a chokehold, as they say, bro.
No, that's real, man. He
Yep,
he he came with a different philosophy, and it was the
yep,
tom work. We just hadn't seen the tom work and the ride and hi hat work. It was just a different vibe, and and the one of the main things I took from him, young. It took a long time before I could do it, but young is just the fact that he was so intent. His intent was so strong to be for his stuff to be heard the right way. He was carrying
yes,
stuff when you had to have refrigerator racks, man. And that is
yes,
dedication, bro. That's
yes,
dedication. And one day I got to see him. I met him one time. I had met him before, but I saw him playing with a friend of mine, James Genius, with Oz Noy. And so I chopped it up with
yep,
him after the show. And that's when he was showing me his setup with QSC and the speakers. And so I ended up going to do the same thing. I went and got the same mixer and the speakers and everything. I don't use it on every gig like him, but
uh-huh,
I did it at PASIC and I do it when I can. And, it's a lot of work, but it's something to be
yes,
said about us being received on a sonic level like everybody else on stage. You know what I'm saying? Which
yes,
is another
yeah, it is,
influence.
man.
Yeah.
Dave's set up in the 80s and late 90s. Dave's set up in the late 80s and early 90s is really, bro. The way his drum sounded, that's what made me start playing at 8.
Yeah.
That's really why I got like that. That's just that those tones are embedded in my, like, they almost embedded in my blood now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
his tones, man, were always killer. I saw Dave perform a clinic, bro, and I could not believe that I was so engulfed in what was happening on stage, and it was him by himself. To your
Yeah.
point about
Mm-hmm.
the work that he put in, his presentation also made it charged all drummers, it charged all of us, bro,
Yep.
to push
Yep.
beyond just going and sitting. Somebody invite you to a clinic and you don't know what you're gonna do, you just winging it and things like that, bro. Watching Dave Weckl do a clinic,
Yep.
and you feeling like you sitting in a room with a 6 and 7 piece band on stage, and he's playing this music, and people aren't just enjoying, drummers aren't just enjoying the facilities and the fundamentals and the theory and all of the chops and all that. They ain't just enjoying that, but people that aren't drummers are able to enjoy this, man. It was because he had the presentation so together. The sound was killing,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying, which he makes sure is perfect. And I've been in situations, I saw Dave at the fantasy drum camp here in Chicago one time, bro,
Mm-hmm.
and they were holding the doors because he
Yep.
was in there, like, getting his sound together, and they were running behind. It wasn't all his fault, but he was running behind. But he was so, like, that was part of his thing. He was like, man, they're like, he's almost finished,
No, he's
but that was his
gangster,
thing,
bro.
bro. And
Yeah.
he puts the time in and work into it, man. I love that about him. That's something that I have wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that I grab from him, man. And it's something I've been trying to make sure that my presentation,
Yeah.
Strong Wise for Clinic, man, is always like, it's
Yeah.
boom,
Well, I
So
can attest to
yeah,
that because
man.
I saw you. We did the Sweetwater thing together last year, and I
Yeah.
saw that, and man, I was 100% blown away by just the overall everything, man. Even in the face of adversity, when something had gone awry a little
Yeah.
bit, and in the recovery, for me, we had a huge technical thing, but it's all about
Yeah.
it's all about the recovery,
It's
though.
all about the
And
recovery.
and
Yeah.
and listen, man, I'm just gonna say that, by the way, the drums that you're playing and the way you have them tuned and that whole experience, bro, was probably one of the better things I've seen in a long time, man. And
Wow,
heard in a
man.
long time. Like, I'm sonically I'm into it, man. And I was really like, okay, this is a whole thing. And as a matter of fact, after that, and after I had my little glitch, I set out to try to find out, you know, some other alternatives to run tracks and what have you, you know, and I stumbled across that company I was telling you about called,
Yep.
you know, M Live, and they got this product called the B Beat, and it's like, it's something that allows you to not have to use a laptop. That way you don't have certain issues that could happen from vibrations or, you know,
Yeah.
magnetic field from speakers. And, you know, it was all based on the fact that I was like, okay, I need my stuff to be at that level because it just sounded incredible, man. So, you know, bro, listen, the Weckl thing, I think a lot of people don't look at it like that because this generation wasn't around for the actual impact of it, you know, to see how
Yep.
it impacted everything. But it was really a big period. I mean, even with the acoustic band, just the fact that he always had stuff processed and it was just like, this is my showing. This is what I'm going to put forth. And he's gangster now.
Yep.
Listen, he's gangster. Like
Yeah.
I know from club owners, I know from concert people, he's serious about it. You know, and I looked up his
Yeah.
rider one day a few years back. I was like, "Oh, okay. It's not a game." You know, but that's what you got to be to
Really.
get the result. Yeah, he's serious, bro. He's serious. He's very intense when it comes to that. But that's how, you know, because people brush us off. You know, we're
Yes,
always
they
like,
do.
oh, you know, everybody else could be having a pristine mix, and then the drums is like,
Yep.
you know, a kick snare and overhead and just whatever, you know, and that's not fair to us creatively because we're musicians too. You know what I'm saying? So I love
Yeah.
the stance that he took there. But getting back to you, man, it's like, so, you know, you primarily work, you know, a lot of the work that you do is in the gospel arena, but you do other things and you have done plenty of other things. So how did the church, the things you learned in church, how did they sharpen you for your decision making and you know, stuff like your internal clock, things that you would use in other, you know, styles? How did the church roots, you know, sharpen you for the other stuff?
Man, a couple of things. For one, church gives you instinct. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm.
it just gives you
Mm-hmm.
it gives you instinct, man. It's like you know, you looking at it's like looking at MJ on the court. I would say LeBron, you know, but I'm from Chicago. So you know, this whole debate. But it's like looking at
No
MJ,
debate.
you know, and you see his and you see yeah, and you see him and I'm a Laker fan, bro. I'm a Laker fan. So
Yeah.
but you see MJ on the court and you see him reading the plays, you see him reading the defenses, and you like, how do you know that? You know what I'm saying? How does
Right.
he know that? And he's his man, his IQ on the basketball court was just way up there. Church gives you an instinct because a lot of times, man, you know, you go in church, you play in church, a lot of times you just thrown in the fire. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? There's a lot of times where, you know, you could be sitting there and you be the song, it's like the song you want to play and the song you was hoping you gonna play and the one you've been practicing at home, you sitting there on Sunday, that ain't the one you played. The guy that's the drummer, he played that one. That's the one he played. And then he gets up and he like, yeah, you can come play this song. You like, I don't know this song. I ain't played this song. You
Yeah.
know, after a while, you develop an instinct. You know, you could tell where it's gonna go, how it's gonna go, where you have to grow the song, where you got to pull back. Um, you know, and so church gave me growing up in church gave me a really good instinct musically. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
if I never heard a song before, especially a gospel song, I mean, if it's a gospel song I never heard before, I definitely can play it, like play it down for you at least. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like it
Right.
won't be
Right.
perfect, but I never played before. I can play it down for you. If you need me to record it, it's gonna be like one take, maybe two takes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like just a basic gospel song, like minus the arrangements. I can give you the form for every gospel song that's probably on the radio right now, whether I heard it or not. So it gave me instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Also, my internal clock. My dad was my coach. You know what I'm saying? He was my Phil
Mm.
Jackson. My
Mm-hmm.
dad was a musician, he was a keyboard player, guitar player. But and he wasn't a drummer, but for some kind of way, he what he wanted to make me was the drummer that he always wanted to work with. You
Ah.
know, because he hired a
Yeah.
lot of drummers here in Chicago when he was producing records and doing sessions and things like that. Um, and he had guys that he loved. There were a lot of musicians that he loved, but there was always one thing that he didn't really like dig about him. Like his three favorite drummers, you know, he would be like, "Oh man, I love this guy. He's got great feel. I love the way his drums sound, but he kind of rushes on drums a little bit. I like this guy a whole lot. You know, feels not really his tone ain't really as good as this other guy, you know, but he drags." And my old man, his thing was, I hate a drummer to slow down. So
Right.
I'd rather you be a drummer that speeds up than slow down, you know. But then he had this other guy who was the third. So anyway, you know, he basically tried to show me how to put all those things that he liked about all these drummers and try to make me a musician that had all of his favorite drummers' strengths and none of their weaknesses.
Right.
So, but one of those things was time. My dad and my uncle, who was the minister of music at the church that I grew up in, they were sticklers about time, bro. And like I'm sure those guys back in the day, man, metronome on or off, you could be down the block. Like you
Right.
set them a BPM, you set a
Right.
BPM and take that metronome and take it down the street. Then you come back, it's gonna be dead, it's still be dead on. That's just how good they were with it and how much of a stickler they were with it. And
Yeah.
so by the time I started recording, by the time I started recording, I adapted really well in the studio quick. I got thrown in the studio. My first time in the studio, I'm in the studio with Ramsey Lewis. The
Oh
very
wow.
first time I've ever entered a studio to play drums in my life, I'm in the studio with Ramsey Lewis.
Wow.
My boy Kevin, you know Kevin Randolph? You
Of
know Kevin
course.
Randolph?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Kevin Randolph takes me in the studio with Ramsey.
Wow.
And and he's like, "Yeah, man, we cut. And I wrote this song for Ramsey, and we're gonna cut the demo right now. And Ramsey's gonna be there. And I mean, this is the very first time. And
Wow.
they were like, you know, um, hey man, turn the click on. Get there. And I'm like, a click? What's a click? Travis, what's a click? I wasn't even playing with drum loops then. You know what I'm saying? I play around with a drum machine every now and then, but that's different
Right.
than playing with a click. My
Yeah.
old man had the boss. What's that? The is it the Lisa's HR16? He
Hey,
had that.
I'm
I
looking
used
at
to
one.
really.
I'm staring at one. Yeah.
My old man had one of those. You know what I'm saying? I would put something together on that and then practice to that a little bit. But
Yeah.
playing with a click track is completely different from that.
Yeah.
So, you know, the very first time I get in the studio and I go and tell the bass player, I'm like, "Bro, I'm nervous. I ain't never been in the studio. I've never played with a click track."
Right.
And he's like, "Oh man, you're gonna be fine." But it gave me that instinct. And then the other, like I said, to speak to my first point, which was instinct, I didn't have this song. You know, I didn't know this song. Another thing, another thing with instinct was that when I started playing with guys like Ramsey Lewis, my reading was very below average because
Right.
I had very little experience doing it. You know, I was able to fake through it a lot because of that instinct. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I got, I got in church. I grew that's something that I got through playing in church.
Mm-hmm.
Those things, those two things, instinct and an internal meter, those are probably two things that really, really helped me excel in my career. So that by time I was in, because I got really lucky, I was blessed, man. I'm saying, my first time in the studio, I'm in there with Ramsey
Sure.
Lewis,
Sure.
and I'm coming behind Ramsey had just finished cutting a record with Omar Keem and Sonny Emery for the first two Urban
Right.
Nights records, and
Right.
his
Right.
drummer at the time was Oscar Seaton. So I'm
Sure.
coming behind those
Shout out to
guys,
Oscar. Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to Oscar.
Yeah.
So I'm coming behind those guys, and Kevin Randolph is like, "Man, I'm gonna give you a shot. I'm gonna give you a shot. I'm gonna put you on," and he does. But I wasn't necessarily ready. I won't say I wasn't ready, but I didn't have all the facilities those other guys had. But it was a do or die moment, and thanks be to God, I was able to get through it because of the instincts that I had from playing in
Yeah.
church for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's also shout
yeah,
out to all the great lineage of drummers from Chicago, man, because there's so many cats that have
man,
just been
yeah,
incredible over the years. Well, the other thing I wanted to say is that, one thing I've noticed from, kind of being in the back, because I didn't come from church, I came from swinging. So,
yep,
I noticed that, like, I'm not a sit-in guy at all. Like, of course, we'll do it if we have to. That's just not my thing. I don't know what it is mentally when it's not my stuff or when it's not set up for me. I don't know, but
Yes.
that's not my thing. But everybody I know from that other world, because of the shed concept and that community,
Hmm.
it's no problem to go somewhere and rip and go crazy and just no matter what the drum set is, no matter what sticks it is, it's like you go into this mode and it's like,
Yeah.
wow. That's something I've noticed,
Yeah.
for years. And going back to what you said before, I mean, I remember, when Thomas was walking around NAMM with his grandmother, a little kid,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Mike Mitchell,
Yeah.
all the homies, we seen these guys grow up, and it's like, you see this mentality, and I can completely see the people that came from church and the people that didn't. There's something about the soul of the plane that is just you can't hide it. You know what I mean? And it's like
Yeah.
when you get the other stuff like you have, and we're going to talk about that now, it's just this perfect storm. So, we're on the
Hmm.
subject. Let's talk about reading because there's a I'm not going to say it's a misunderstanding or a misnomer because I will still say that predominantly there's not really a reason to have to read in church, because it's more emotion
Hmm.
and you learn that psalm
Yeah.
book and then it's just about remembering arrangements. And
Yeah.
it's 2026. I mean, let's be honest. Now that's pretty much what it is in music 90% of the time because you're going to have Pro Tools
Hmm.
going and you just got to learn the show. It ain't never been,
Yeah.
in most popular music, it's no charts like that. That doesn't,
Yeah.
that's not how it rolls. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you early on were embracing reading. I mean, did you do that in school or who got you hip to learning how to read, you know, being predominantly in church? How you had to
Yeah.
seek that out?
Yeah. I got to this. There was the high school that I went to was a high school for performing arts. It's called Curie Metropolitan High School for Performing Arts. I
Mm-hmm.
got to the school. Um, it was out of my district. It took me 3 hours to get to school.
Mm-hmm.
But it was they basically would let you come to the school if you were gifted. They would let you get to the school. You could enroll in the school basically, and they would put you in the music programs. They had a serious arts department. Keith Harris went to this school.
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, Keith Harris is the reason I went to that school.
Wow.
I met Keith Harris in the band room one day. I didn't have my eyes on Curie. I was I was in between some different things in my life, and my sister was getting ready to go to that school,
Mm-hmm.
and she was there to audition for the dance department. The I went to the school and the lady, I went to the school with my mom and my sister so she could do her audition, and the lady says, while your sister's auditioning, you can either go hang out in the gym and play basketball, or you can go to the band room. I go to the band room. I go to the band room. Keith Harris and this guy, this keyboard player in there, and his name is Derek. I can't think his last name. Um, Derek Amos. Him and Keith are in there. Keith is playing drums, and this guy's playing keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
um, they're working on a song that Keith is working on to send off for an audition for him to get into Berkeley School of Music.
Ah.
So I'm sitting there in the back. Keith looks at me and says, "Hey man, do you play?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "What do you play?" I said, "Drums." He's like, "Perfect. Come play drums." Keith picks up the bass because he's a bass player too. So he picks up the bass, and now they got a rhythm. They got a rhythm section. So he picks up the bass, and I'm just playing this song. I never played Church Instinct. I never
Right.
played this song, but I'm playing it, and I'm picking up what the parts and everything, and making my way through it. And then Keith looks at me and was like, I've never seen you here. What year are you? And I'm like, I don't go here. He was like, where do you go? So I'm like, I go to this school. And he was like, but I'm like, I think I'm transferring. I'm going back to that school. He was like, well, do you want to come here? And I'm like, I don't know. My sister is trying to get into the school here. So long story short, that's how I get into this school. Keith goes and talks to the band director and says, you got to hear this kid play drums. Kid goes to my mother and says, hey, we want your son to get in this. We want your son in this school. That's how I get to the school. But I get to the school and you got to learn. You have to know how to read. I'm in there basically a part of the arts program because I'm out of the district. So I have to take performing arts classes. I got to learn how to read. So I started learning how to read music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they put me in concert band one, they put me in jazz band one, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I didn't understand jazz music, and Keith was like, I remember Keith being like, "Yo, you know how to play jazz?" I was like, "Yeah, I know how to play jazz a little bit." And then I started playing jazz, and he was like, you sound like a church guy trying to play jazz. He's like, you sound like a church drummer playing jazz. So he hooked me up with some lessons, and then he gave me a couple of pointers, and then they had this program, which is how I met Ramsey. Had this program called Jazz Mentors. I get
Mm.
involved in this program. Ramsey takes a liking to me, and he's like, man, he invites me, invites me to his house. I start working with his son in high school. I'm hanging out with his
Mm-hmm.
kids. That's how I met Kevin Randolph.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin Randolph was playing for a gospel group, but then we connected with Ramsey. Well, anyway, but I'm in this situation in this school. Ramsey is a huge proponent. He's absolutely deaf on musicians knowing how to read. The
Right.
whole thing was about jazz. The whole thing was about being mentored by high profile jazz musicians from Chicago. So these high profile jazz musicians, this guy named Ernie Adams was a drummer. He has played
Mm-hmm.
with Nancy Wilson, and he's
Mm-hmm.
played with. I can't think of the weird guitar player named Al Di Meola. He played with Al Di Meola,
Sure.
but he's a
Mm-hmm.
bad dude. He comes to they basically got a 6-piece band. They got three horns, bass, drums, piano. Each one of these guys goes to these different schools, 12 schools, and personally mentors high school musicians for a semester. And so I started spending time with this guy, with Ernie, and in turn, he tells Ramsey about me. I start hanging out with Ramsey and going to hear them and stuff like that. But I'm looking at it, and he's like on me, like, you gotta learn how to read. You gotta learn how to read. So my reading, I'm not, Vinny is probably the greatest reader in the world, man. But I was like, if you threw a chart in front of me, I made my way through it, and
Right.
people, and now I didn't see the benefit of it until after school. Like after I get out, I graduate high school, and Ramsey would have a chart. He's got some charts for like his older stuff that he would want to do every now and then. But for the most part, when I started playing with him, again, I'm relying on my instinct. And then I get a call at the last minute for a gospel gig, and it's like a fundraiser, and it's with the guy Fred. It's the guy that's over the band. This guy Fred Nelson, who is how I ended up playing with Aretha Franklin. He was Aretha Franklin's
Ah.
band leader.
Mm-hmm.
He's Jennifer Hudson's band leader right now.
Mm-hmm.
But he was doing this. He was doing this big thing fundraiser, and one of the artists on the thing were saying like, "Hey, we need a gospel drummer. This thing it's a gospel event, and even though it's a fundraiser, so they call me. They like, hey, we're gonna call Calvin, and it's like one rehearsal, one run through, and I get there, bro, and matter of fact, they faxed me. I had them fax all the charts
Yeah.
to my stepmother's job so that because I didn't have we didn't even have a fax machine at home.
Right.
He's like,
Right.
yo, he's like, man, the drummer that was going to do it, they want somebody a lot more gospel. They
Mm-hmm.
want a guy that's got a little bit more of the gospel facilities. So we're gonna put you on, man. But it's one rehearsal, and it's a run through, and I need to send you the charts. I'm gonna fax them to you.
Mm-hmm.
He faxes me the charts, and I start working with this guy. It's how I ended up doing, like, being in a house band for like Stellar Awards. Again, it's how I ended up working with Aretha Franklin. So it was beneficial for me, man. Aretha's and Lord help me, thank God, because if she was alive and heard me say Aretha Franklin, bro, she would go off. But Miss Franklin, her thing was like, she had a librarian, bro, out
Oh,
on her gig,
right. So
you
real
know,
charts.
cause,
Yeah.
cause, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other,
So
so
like,
another school. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, and you could, and you could, you couldn't wing it on that gig. The reason why you couldn't wing it on that gig because I played with her for 2 years. Never failed. Every night we went on stage. Every day we got there, did a sound check. They have a set list, and then 10 minutes before they open that curtain,
Right.
Miss Franklin has changed the set list. She want to add this song, that song. Ain't no time to go over it.
Of
Ain't no
course.
time to go over it, man. So,
Yeah.
um, Man, it was a blessing for me being connected with those people, who really pushed me. Ramsey and his son, Ernie Adams, Kevin Randolph, Fred Nelson, those guys really,
Yeah,
really pushed me to just have that under my belt, just have that tool under my belt. And it's like, man, nobody's saying again, you know, uh, uh, Harvey Mason is another one that is
sure,
another incredible
of
reader.
course. Oh
But
yeah,
those two guys, knowing them, knowing them, that's really how I was like, I'm probably never gonna be able to do that. I'm never gonna be that kind of reader. But just at least, because if again, we coupled with the instinct that I have with knowing how to read a chart, and the routing on charts is what used to like was really
right.
what would be
The
tricky.
forms, yeah,
You know what I'm
coders and
saying?
all
The
that.
form
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that can throw you, man. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So that stuff will throw you, bro. But
yeah,
that that's really how I got into reading, man. Again, you talking about Chicago drummer. Shout out to Keith Harris. Another
bro.
guy.
That's
Who
amazing, bro. Yeah, no,
Yep.
that speaks to the lineage, and it speaks to this whole community, and these relationships, because a lot of these people, obviously, you still see in a professional setting. You never
Yeah.
know who's going to do what. I mean, Keith went on to do stuff like Black Eyed Peas and all these other things,
Mm-hmm.
and there it is. You go back, to high school. I mean, we had a school similar to that in L.A. called Hamilton, and that's where I met,
Yeah.
Warren Campbell and Abe Laboria went there, and
Yeah.
we had a handful of cats that went there as well. And it's like the same mentality where you're in front of these masters and you try to soak up as much as you can. And even Manny Marroquin, one of my former guests, that's where we all went. And so it's like you see these people the rest of your career, and it's because everybody shared that enthusiasm at a young age, that
Yes.
this is what I'm here to do. So,
Yep.
knowing from that time to where you are now, like the full arc of your career, like from church, from starting out and everything, what's that one thing that you feel has given you the most value in your career that you can just say, you know what, this part of my foundation is the thing that really has kept me moving forward and getting to the place that I am now.
I'm gonna be honest, man. I feel like it's been because I've only always been motivated by the music.
Mm,
I haven't let money dictate whether or not I haven't let crowd size, I haven't let social media likes, followers, subscribers. My only motivation has been music, man. It's been music, and it's been to, pass it on. It's been to, to help people the way I was helped.
yeah.
Those have been my driving motivations. You know what I'm saying? I'll be honest. Like when I went out with R. Kelly, after I got done, Teddy told me, he was like, "Man, you got the R. Kelly gig under your belt, man. Why don't you go out to LA for a little while, see if anything's popping out there? You just coming off the R. Kelly gig, you know, you got that on your resume. You probably can land another R&B gig." And I was like, Ted, I didn't really like playing R&B music.
Right.
I didn't really like playing. I didn't really like playing with R. Kelly.
Right, right.
To be even more direct.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I was hiding behind a boxer all night. You can't hear me in the house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm playing. The guy, the music director is like no crashes on the downbeats. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I'm basically there to play the interludes in between the medleys. You know what I'm saying? I get y'all through the interludes. That's like the only time you hear my drums faintly.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like
yeah.
distantly you hear some cymbals and hi-hats, you know what I'm saying, a swell and maybe a big tom fill, and then that's it. It's back to the 808 snare and the
Right, right.
808 kick drum, you know what I'm saying. So I told Teddy, I was like, man, I'm like, Ted, I ain't really like playing R&B music, man. I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
Hmm.
I'm gonna play gospel, bro. I'm like, that's what I'm good at. That's what
Hmm.
I love playing. And he was like, and Teddy was like, I mean, he was like, that's cool, man. Hey, do what you do. He's like, I'm just saying, I don't know, if you're gonna be able to build a career off of that. I don't know if you're gonna be
Right.
able to, make some
Hmm.
real money, some real bread, but cool. But that was my motivation, man. And everybody, I had some friends that I said, when I told them that what I was doing, I told them, I'm like, man, Teddy was saying, go to LA. I didn't like playing R&B music, man. I'm gonna play gospel. They like gospel, man. What? Like, bro, you know how much money you know how much these tours are paying right now, bro. You land a tour like, of course, Backstreet Boys and 98 Degrees was popping, NSYNC was
Right.
popping in, Britney was popping in. Man, some of those tours are paying 7, 8 grand a week. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
Right.
man, you ain't no gospel gig for to never pay you that kind of money. But I was like, I'm like, man, I don't want I don't want to play for money because I feel like if I start playing for money now, I'll never stop.
Ooh, that's
I'm
a
like,
bar,
if
bro. That's a bar.
if I compromise what I feel artistically for $1 right now in my life, I'm gonna do it for the rest of my life.
Mm.
So I was just like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not. I'm gonna play the music I love and I'm gonna figure it out. And then I remember talking to I remember talking to because I had been playing with John P. Key,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember I was talking to John one day, and I had told him, I said, man, because John asked me one day, like, man, what you want to do? Because everybody knows, what I'm saying, the John P. Key thing it's I don't want to say it's a revolving door, like he can't keep a band,
Right.
but
Right.
it's like it's not one of those things you don't be on that gig for 13, 14 years, 10
Right.
years. You know
Right.
what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
It's one of those things where like he switched guys out 3, 4, 5 years. So I think he already knew like I wasn't gonna be there long. And one day, not long after I had just started playing with him, he's asking me like, so man, what do you want to do in music? Like what you trying to be? What are you trying to do? And I was like, bro, I'm like, Pastor, I want to record. I
Mm.
want to record. I want to be a
Mm-hmm.
recording drummer.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, okay. And so he was like, man, you been in the studio before? I've been in the studio once or twice.
Yeah.
When he was like, man, he was like, you want to be a recording drummer, bro? You gotta be deaf on the click.
Yep.
He was like, you gotta make that thing disappear.
Yep.
And so, like I said, by then I had been in the studio once or twice. My very first time in the studio with Ramsey, but I had been in the studio a couple of times since then. But when I told John that, John would bring me to Charlotte and like just make sessions up
Wow.
just to build me into being a recording drummer, just to
Mentorship,
have me in
bro.
the studio. Mentorship, bro.
Man, he believed in you,
Mentorship.
bro. He
Yep, he
believed in
did.
you, man.
He did, man. He did.
Yep.
He would bring me. He'd bring me to Charlotte, and I just be in studio. John probably got 100, probably more than 100 songs in his vault with me on drums that ain't seen the light of day.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
I haven't played with John in over 20 years, like
Amazing.
on a regular.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's what I wanted to be. So when I said that, after I did that, when I got done with the R. Kelly thing, and I was like, well, I went back to that question. I'm like, well, I said I wanted to be a recording drummer, so I set my focus and my sights on artists
Yeah.
who were recording. So
Yeah.
I set my sights on artists who were doing who were doing recordings, and I had a plan. I'm like, I'm gonna start working with these artists, and I'm gonna get familiar with the producers. I'm gonna get in their faces.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, again, another thing that I think, that has helped me is I was always intentional about, you know, my presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So I always was like, man, I don't want to run up on a guy, and I'm not, you know, aesthetically, I don't look good. I don't smell good. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I just wanted to be a guy that was like, man, if a guy, if I started a conversation with an executive in the after party room after a session, he didn't mind talking to me. He would remember me. And so that was the thing. But I wanted to be a recording drummer. I went back to that. I started with artists in Chicago. I started playing with artists in Chicago. Donald Lawrence moved to Chicago after that, and I started playing with him. And then, you know, I got to recording with him. But the way I got to working with him was by working with a local artist.
I see.
Working with a local artist who ended up coming to a live recording that this local artist did, and Donald
Mm-hmm.
just happened to be sitting there, and then Donald was like, "Oh man, Coon." Who was Calvin Napper, who was playing with Frankie Beverly, had
Right.
had, had got the he had got the Frankie Beverly gig, moved on, And so that was his recording drummer. So he like, man, I'm looking for another guy. I'm building a unit. Now he's like, I'm gonna check this guy out. And he hit me up. And so I was like working with, so I'm getting in with him. That was my aim. My aim was
Mm-hmm.
always to get with the producers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, because if I can get with the producers instead of me just being relegated to the artists, because the artists doing records every 4 or 5 years. But if I
Right.
get with the producers, they producing records, you know what I'm saying,
All
all
the
the time.
time.
So
Yeah.
they gonna call me every year.
Yeah.
So that was the thing, and that was how I really just kind of I built a career around that. But it
Right.
started with me saying I ain't gonna play for somebody I don't want to play for just because it's a check.
Well, I mean, that's big, bro. I mean, Kendrick said it best, how much a dollar costs. You know what I'm saying? It's like
How,
it's you know what I mean? It's like that's a
yeah,
true real when you really think about that and unpack that, it's like a lot of people do a lot of things and it's like, was it really worth it? And then
yeah.
so another question is, what year were you on R. Kelly? Because I feel like I had just missed you. Like, what year would that have been about?
Yeah, I came after Gerald Hayward, so that was around maybe around 2001,
Okay, so I was there.
around 2000,
I
2001.
went on the download tour with the support group. So that's when Ray and Percy were doing it.
Oh
So
yeah,
and
yeah,
so it was
yeah.
Ray and Percy and
So that was
Keith.
like
96. That was
yes,
96.
yes,
So
90s.
I was with
Yeah,
one of the other acts, and so that's when I first met Percy and Ray, and they was ripping that thing up, man. They was destroying that gig, bro. And
bro.
yeah, the Chicago lineage is wild, bro. It's like it's interesting because every place has their thing. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's weird.
Man,
Every place has their thing, bro. Like L.A.,
Trevor,
Chicago, New York.
Trev, you gotta. Can you please, if you can you please just talk about, because a lot of people, Ray Beatty didn't play drums really long. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? He played the R.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly gig, but he
Mm-hmm.
always had his sights on something else. But man, every time I talk about the drummer that Ray Beatty was back in that day, man,
Man, listen, bro. Listen.
bro,
White
like
white pearls and every night, and you got to also understand, I wasn't, I was playing with this group called Solo that Jimmy and Terry had. So, we were
oh, I know what solo is, dog.
we were the
Yeah.
openings. So it's like we would sometimes be playing and
Hmm.
it's the daylight, still daylight, because it was like us,
Yeah.
Escape and LL and R. Kelly. So,
Hmm.
Escape had, Zach and Grip and all them cats. This cat named Maurice was playing. These all Atlanta cats. And then,
Okay.
my group, everybody was from Minneapolis except me. It was Roger Troutman Jr. and Ricky's nephew, Jason Peterson, who's my good friend. And then
Whoa.
Chance Howard, and myself. And so, I still, for them, they were the main act. So it's like, man, backstage, everybody was so calm, but it was so musical and just so cold.
Hmm.
And Ray was just murdering. And you're right.
Yeah.
I didn't see a lot from him after that or hear a lot from him. And he doesn't get brought up
Hmm.
in the conversation. But Ray, if you out there,
Yeah.
yo, listen, bro, you were murdering that gig in 1996, my
Yeah.
brother. Killing that gig,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he was playing pearl drums too, I remember. And it was like, man, it was inspiring to see, because I was coming from the other side of the tracks. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
it's interesting when you see, how musical, people are that bring that. And then once again, gospel instinct. Now, all that was on display on that gig. You know what I'm saying? At that time,
Yes.
and the songs were, hit songs at the moment. He was on fire. So it was just one of those periods that you had to be there. You know what I'm saying? To
Yeah,
experience
man.
that craziness, man. But getting out of here, bro. I mean, we could, listen, bro. We could
Yeah.
talk all day. I always ask this question about one moment in your career, that stands out above all. If you could go back from the very beginning to now, what's one moment that really stands out in your career?
Um, man, I was doing Marvin Sapp Thirsty album.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think I've said this, I've told this story before, but I'm doing Marvin Sapp Thirsty album. It's my first time working with the producer Aaron Lindsay. We've known each other for a long time. Well, we've known each other for some time. I know the guys in the band. So we went to for the Thirsty album. We went to Houston and did a band rehearsal 2 weeks before the recording.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Houston, do the band rehearsal 2 weeks before the recording, and then we get to Michigan 2 week. We get to Michigan the week of the session and do another week of. So we did a week in Houston, 2 weeks before the session, and then the week of the recording. The recording was on a Friday night. I get to Flint, Michigan, or Saginaw, Michigan, whatever part of Michigan it was, that Marvin is from. Uh, I get there Sunday night, and we rehearse Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So the rehearsals in Houston, like, we learned the songs, and I'm like, I'm making my parts. I'm building my parts. I'm like going through. I'm like, this is how I'm gonna get through the songs. This is how I'm gonna move. This is how I'm gonna get us through the transitions. This is gonna be my feel. This is gonna be my setup. This is the exact feel I'm gonna play. This is what I'm gonna do. And I knew it. I was building it. I was putting the puzzle together. So that's what I did in the rehearsals in Houston. Get to Michigan, second day of the rehearsals. Aaron Lindsay pulls me to the side and is like, "Yo, man, bro, I ain't really. You sound great. The parts are there, the feel is there, but it's mechanical. It's stiff. It ain't got no. It don't have that thing on it, man. It's like you just hear. I feel like I'm listening to the tape from what we did in Houston." And I was like,
Mm.
"Well, yeah, I built the parts. You know what I'm saying? I played the parts. I memorized what I was going to play, and that's what I'm playing now. Like, that's why I played it in Houston."
Right.
And he was like, "Nah, nah, nah. I ain't. I'm not digging that." And I'm like, "But this is how I record. I
Right.
mean, this is how I record, man. This is the way I record albums. This is the way I memorize my parts.
Yeah.
I play them. This is what I do." And he's like, "Bro, I'm not feeling that, man." I'm like,
Wow.
"Bro, I don't know what to tell you, man. This is recording. I want to
Right.
be perfect on this record. I'm not
Right.
gonna be out here taking chances on
Right.
some feels and some, you know what I'm saying, trying to be spontaneous. This gonna live well long after I'm gone, and
Right.
I want it to be perfect."
Hmm.
And he was like, "Bro," he was like, "It don't have to. It can have some looseness to it. You can take some of the mechanics out of it, man." He was like,
Mm.
"Ask him, Phil, play something I haven't heard." And I'm gonna be honest. Like, I wasn't feeling that. I'm
Right.
like, "No." I'm like, "No, bro. This is my system. This is my system. This is how I do records." And so he was like, "I'm not digging it."
Wow.
And we kind of like bumped heads a little bit. I went back to my room. I went back to my room. I went back to the hotel, and something just said, like, "Just try it, Calvin.
Mm.
Just try it. Just do it." And I did. And he came back to me. He was like, "Bro, yes, this is what I'm talking about, man. This is what I'm saying, bro. It feels, the energy is there. The energy is there." Now, to be honest, bro, even still at the recording after the recording that night, and I've told this story before, but after recording that night, I still I still was a little reserved. I
Right.
still was a little bit reserved. I held a little bit back, but I did I feel like I loosened up a lot, but I did I loosened up a lot, but I was still a little bit reserved. There were some things I was playing in the rehearsals that I was just like, I wouldn't dare play that on the record.
Right.
But what we end up doing is we did the live record, and we played one of the songs. We did all the songs, and then Aaron Lindsay comes back and says, "Hey, I want to record the first three songs again, just for the energy. Y'all loose now." You know what I'm saying? And y'all a little
Right.
bit looser. Y'all a little bit. So we record the first three songs from the album again. There was this thing I was playing on one of the songs. Dave Weckl. Again,
Ah.
Dave Weckl introduced me to the paradiddle diddle.
Right.
Is the first thing I learned. It was like the first rudiment I learned listening to Dave Weckl.
Right.
So I introduced me to the paradiddle diddle, but I'm playing. I've been playing the paradiddle diddle. I play it on the beginning of the. I have been playing it on the beginning of this song, like a 12/8 thing, like a
Right.
shuffle. I have been playing it in the rehearsals, but I didn't play it on a recording. My homeboy Swole, who's on bass, turns around
Swole.
to me when we get to the. Yep, turns around to me when we get to the third song and says, "I dare you to play that intro the way you've been playing it in rehearsals. I dare you." And I'm like, I'm going, I'm going. First of all, nobody's gonna hear these takes. My
Right.
take is the one that we did in the first one. That's the one I'm telling them to use, because that one
Right.
I know is cookie cutter, is puzzled. I know where everything is. I can put it back together. So I'm like, I don't care. Fine, I'll play it. I play it, and every man, Aaron comes up to me after the session like, "Oh my god, bro!" And so the thing I want to say is that was a defining moment for me because I was able to detach myself away from me
Mm,
and what my idea of what the music and serve the music. I feel like I served the music instead of serving my agenda, which is what I wanted to do. I feel like I made the decision to serve the music and I gave the producer what he was asking for.
right.
I've had a long standing relationship with Aaron Lindsay since then, bro. And that album, it a lot of times if you ask people what's Calvin Rodgers Picasso, people say that album. People
Please tell
say
us what it
Marvin
is. I want
Sapp's
to. Which
Marvin
album?
Sapp Thirsty.
Okay.
Marvin Sapp Thirsty.
All right.
A lot of people say that's my best album. They love the mix on the drums. They love the way I played it, but um, a lot of people be like, it almost wasn't. It
Ah.
almost wasn't a thing. It almost wasn't. And also, me and that producer's relationship, it could have been completely destroyed
Right.
had I been stubborn
Mm-hmm.
and committed to what I wanted to do and just being committed to my ways. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Scorpio. I'm stubborn by nature, bro.
3-letter word, and you overcame it. It's the 3-letter word that kills everything.
Ego.
EGO. And it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't even realize that that's what's steering the decision. But once you
Yeah.
got out, once you got away from that, and you just went to serve the music, everything
Yeah.
went crazy, and now it's immortalized, and you still have your relationship with the producer. So
Yeah.
something that we used to say back in my Aftermath days, which is your ego is not your amigo. I've never seen it like, help somebody out. You know what I mean?
Dude,
I didn't come up with
your
that.
ego is not your
I can't take
amigo,
responsibility,
bro.
but we do say it. We
Hey,
used to say it all the time. And listen, man, it's the truth. And you got
it
out of the
is the
way
truth.
and you served the music, and now we can live with it for the rest of our lives and go back and listen to it
Yeah.
and enjoy it, man, because you did
Yeah.
the right thing. But Calvin, listen,
Yeah.
bro, I so appreciate you coming on, man. I mean, it's so many things we could do. We're definitely gonna have to do a part 2 because there's a lot of things I want to get into that we didn't talk about on a more technical, drummer question
Yeah.
type level, But once again, bro, when you put words to Garden Wall, bro, that day on your Instagram in your car,
Oh, that was.
I was
Oh, that was.
was that
Oh, that
Garden
that
Wall?
video
Was
was.
that Garden
Yeah, it
Wall?
was
Yeah,
Garden
yeah,
Wall, but
yeah.
I reposted that. That was my friend Snoop singing that.
Oh wow! I thought it was you,
That was
bro.
yeah. No,
When
I reposted that video. I put it on my. I took the video. I
I,
told him to send me the video, and I put it up on. Everybody thinks that's me. Well,
bro,
everybody that doesn't know Snoop thought it was me, but I was like, oh no, that wasn't me.
man,
But yeah,
bro, because I remember I just saw somebody, one of the younger cats, just did a clinic and he played, I think, Island Magic. And I was like, I
yeah,
remember I played that whole contemporary drummer plus minus one or plus one. I did a concert with that in middle school, like
yeah,
eighth grade, because I was, that was my thing. And I told the teacher, like, yo,
yeah.
at the concert, let me play these Dave Weckl songs with my tape. And so I remember bringing the tape and plugging it into the
Because
system. No, no
they
mics,
gave you the tape
one side, no
with the
drums.
yes,
Yeah,
one
yep,
side no drums
yep.
with the
Yeah,
video
man.
cassette. Yes, they did.
Shout out to Dave,
Yeah,
man.
man.
Shout out to Dave.
Shout
And
out to Dave.
shout
Yeah,
out to Dave for also bringing up that the money he was making in 1984 with Simon and Garfunkel is more
I
than
saw
cats
that.
are making in 2026 still. Come
I
on,
saw that.
man. Come on, man. He's
I saw
speaking.
that. Yeah,
We might have
yeah,
to pull up. Dave, you got to pull up, bro. I'm reaching
yeah,
out, bro. I'm reaching out, Dave. I'm
yeah,
reaching out, bro. So, but yeah, man, once again, Calvin, man, I appreciate you, bro. And
man.
this has been too much fun, bro. I know I'm gonna see you in NAMM, soon.
Yes, sir.
Any appearances or anything you want to speak on, at
Man,
NAMM?
I'm playing at NAMM at the Pearl booth or in the Pearl room on Saturday at like 3 p.m. somewhere around there. They got a
Okay.
bunch of incredible players. I think Dennis is playing. I think
Oh yeah,
um
amazing.
I think Mangini's playing.
Nice.
Um so it's a few it's like 5 or 6 of us
Awesome.
playing, man. But yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
there at NAMM. So if you guys are around at NAMM,
Yep.
I'm there on Saturday the 24th at around 3 p.m. It's gonna be
Okay.
plenty of, and I'll put it up on my socials. But it's gonna be plenty of drumming going on that whole day. They got like 2 performances every day. They got 2 on Thursday, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday.
Awesome, bro. That's
So
great. So if you're
yeah,
in the
man.
area in NAMM, go check out Calvin at Pearl. And I'll be doing a live, abbreviated but live version of the show earlier that day on the 24th at noon at Warm Audio. So we're gonna be doing the TrevBeats Show live there. It's gonna be shorter, but we're gonna be doing it there. But I'll be around in NAMM, man, and we're gonna see each other and chop it up like we always do.
Yeah, man.
NAMM is a great community, man. A lot of drummers, we get to see each other and hang,
Yep.
and it's always a great time. Oh, and I need to also shout out the app that just came out. The Promptducer app just came out, and that's on the Apple App Store. If you guys are prompters, you're trying to use AI and you're trying to get your prompts together, this is a prompting assistant and a captions assistant. So if you have a long caption and you want to get it in all the different social medias that have different character restrictions, you just put it in and see tell it which one you're doing, and it's going to abbreviate that caption and enhance it for you.
Oh, nice.
To fit. So that's on the Apple iOS store. We got some more stuff coming. Of course, TrevBeats, TrevorLawrenceJr.com for our merch and all that kind of stuff. We know that's where we're gonna, we have all our stuff for sale. The book is coming to NAMM. Get Musician's Pocket Guide to Endorsements, Volume 3 is gonna help you walk around NAMM. That's gonna help y'all. So not you, Calvin, you're already good, but it's gonna help.
Yeah.
It's gonna help the people that's up and coming, get an idea of how to maybe approach these companies and how that business really looks. So, you can check that out, TrevorLawrenceJr.com.
You want that? I need to read that book from the standpoint of, man, you've added an element that we haven't, what I'm saying, which is the element of being one of the guys that develop with them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's where that's the element that, brings residual income. You know what I'm saying? Because you can, if you're a drummer playing for somebody, man, you can get anybody. Somebody will give you gear.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But gear, doesn't help. You know what I'm saying? Like just having a bunch of drums, that don't help pay your bills. You know what I'm saying? But if you get into creating and developing, then that helps.
It's exploiting the partnership aspect. You know what I mean? And it's like, we get to the almost employee aspect. That's, a lot of people get to that, but then how do you take it? Basically, like if you had a job, like how do you go from being a worker to being assistant manager to being a manager, right? Or in a company, how do you get from being in the mailroom to the boardroom? So it's the same mentality, but listen, man, that's in the book. You guys check that out. But thanks again, Calvin, man, for this amazing interview, bro. I'm so excited we got to do this, and we're definitely going to do it again, bro, for sure.
Trev, thank you for having me, man. I'm serious. I mean this when I say it, bro. You are a legend, and I appreciate the reach out, man. I appreciate it, man.
All good. We'll see you on the next one, bro.
Yes, sir. See y'all soon.
It's the TrevBeats Show, and we out. We out. It's the TrevBeats Show, and we out. It's the TrevBeats